So the first element, no surprise, is know God.
Yeah.
And what I think might be a surprise is that very early in this devotional journey, 40 days, your readers will get introduced to the reality of life in the Feldhahn household. And I think sometimes people might look at Shaunti Feldhahn, gee, she's a Harvard educated researcher. She's worked on Wall Street. She sold millions of books. Like, what does she have to worry about? You shared a pretty intense story right out of the gate with your son, Luke, on I think at a Christmas service, and how this led to the first element, or how this supported the first element of knowing God. I think our readers would love to know a little bit about this story.
Yeah, the key for a mom or a dad or anybody, really, it doesn't even matter if you're a parent, but it certainly is heightened for those of us who are parents. One of the greatest sources of anxiety is about those we love, right? I mean, for anybody who's a parent, you understand that. I mean, one of the things that we put in the devotional somewhere is this statement that one of my friends said when they had their first child. This was years and years ago, and we didn't have children yet, and he said, you need to understand that to have a child is to have your heart go walk around outside your body for the rest of your life.
Oh, there it is.
And it's true. It is absolutely true. And so it can become, whether you're a parent or not, the cares that you have for other people who you desperately care about is one of the biggest sources of worry.
Yeah.
And this factor of the only real solution to that is to recognize that you have to be able to know and trust God with them and with those anxieties, especially in a time like this one, right?
Yes.
And so the story you're referring to is where this, as a parent, obviously it's real in many ways from the day that they're born. But this really hit us when our son was about to turn 11, and we were in church, Christmas Eve service with my parents in their little rural town in Virginia, up in the mountains where they lived at the time. And getting ready we stood up for the last hymn, and all of a sudden I looked over and Luke is having this massive grand mal seizure. And it was like suddenly the world came apart, and it turns out it's it'll do it. And a long story, but we had no idea that Luke had epilepsy. And it started a very long journey for us. The sort of the momentary terror and panic of that night, we're 45 minutes away from the nearest hospital. We're in this little rural town. We had no idea what was going on. And then the sort of, that's the intense sort of moment, but now it starts a life, right? Your epilepsy is just there. And so now he's 17, he's a sophomore in high school, and he has to still take epilepsy meds every day. And every day, I am twitchy.
Right?
Have you taken your meds? Are you okay? Have you drunk enough water? Did you get enough sleep? Like, during the days at school were in session, as many moms can imagine, in the back of my mind, there's the phone rings. Is it the school? Did he have another seizure? Like, that's there. And we're living in a moment now where there is that kind of twitchiness about what's the latest? Am I going to lose my job? That's the call from my boss. Are we getting furloughed? Like, there's that level of anxiety. And recognizing that of these 7 elements, the most important one by far, and by the way, this is not just scripture, this is science, actually, is turning yourself over to a God who's in control when you cannot be, and recognizing that you can trust him. This is the reason that the 12-step addiction programs always say one of their founding cornerstones is to trust a higher power.
Right.
Because
that's it.
Recognizing that we are simply not in control, and we have to trust the one who is.
Yeah, that's really good.